Hey, Drew, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, my man. Appreciate that.
All right, buddy. How you feeling today?
Feeling fantastic.
All right. Oh, and I had my green drink this morning, too.
I love that.
It's my favorite. My wife loves the Organifi green drink. All right, so let's do this. Folks, I'm excited. Today we have Drew Canole joining us on the SHAIR podcast. Drew is the founder and CEO of Fit Life TV. Many of you will remember the SHAIR podcast promoting Organifi for 6 months because it is an amazing superfood product. My wife and I still drink it almost on a daily basis. Drew is a rock star in the world of fitness, nutrition, and mindset with a huge heart for others and doing his part to transform the world one person at a time. Drew has recently written a book called You Be You. There's the topics that I love: reprogramming your limiting beliefs, creating your why identity, honoring your body, turning your dreams into reality, mastering your subconscious mind. That sound about right, Drew?
You got it.
All right. Awesome. I'm pumped because there's a lot of elements about this that is similar to what we deal with in recovery, which is what the SHAIR podcast is all about. But it's also a big part of what I do today, which is coaching. I have shifted. The SHAIR podcast is predominantly a recovery-based podcast. SHAIR stands for Sharing Helps Addicts in Recovery.
Got it. Cool.
But more recently, I have shifted my focus to life coaching. I'm a certified life coach. And so now a lot of what you wrote about in your book is exactly what I focus on when I coach people today. So when I got the email from Jocelyn talking about you joining us on the SHAIR podcast, I said, this is perfect because we're going to have a ton to talk about. All right.
Cool, man.
Let's just rock and roll. All right. So first of all, before we get into the details, tell us a little bit about what your normal daily routine looks like, including recovery.
Recovery as in what do I do to recover? Or
let me take that back. Remove the part. I sometimes go into autopilot, Drew. You have to forgive me.
Yeah, no worries, bud. Well, most of us are in autopilot.
Okay, yeah.
Right? It's like the human condition of autopilot, which is what I think addiction in a lot of ways stems from. Mm-hmm. I haven't had a lot of experience with it, but I have had a lot of experience at being human and failing miserably and learning and then failing miserably again. I think the thing that separates me from most humans is that I learn and then I'm really good at adapting and not doing it again. So, and that comes from a very young age of being brought into an experience. So I was born into an experience where my parents were both very much into drugs and alcohol and they were addicted, right? So I was adopted. Speaking about making this one of the most profound podcasts anybody's ever heard on your show.
Yeah,
I was adopted at the age of 5, but I had all this trauma from all the abuse from parents that were addicted to drugs and alcohol that could not offer me the type of support that I needed in those fundamental years. So I've been working my whole entire life experience, well, for the past 37 years, to unweave a lot of that trauma, mostly in my mind. And then nowadays it's all in the body, right? Because the subconscious mind is actually in this meat suit, this intelligently designed work of art that we have, that we roll around in. We call it the temple. We call it the body. Some people call it their trash can. And we put all this food that's bad for us, which is why the overweight and obesity epidemic is up to 70%. But also we have a trash can mind. So as life coaches, one thing we do, and like likened to the book that I just wrote, You Be You, it's getting rid of the trash that's in our brain. And to answer your question about what do I do during the day to get my day started, well, it's really recognizing that first, I'm human and I got the trash can up here, all this noise happening. But how do I stop that? So for me, I do embodied meditation. So especially somebody who has dealt with trauma in the past, somebody who is constantly in their brain, not in control of their thoughts, well, I'm going to take a chemical, be it drugs, alcohol, pills, whatever it is, to alter my chemical state. That's what most people do. right? Now they're listening to you. So it tells me that they're intelligent and they're actually making better choices than they used to. So how do we manufacture those chemicals naturally? And that's what I'm all about. So I manufacture those chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, big oxytocin for sure, adrenaline, and all the other neurochemicals that we have by doing my morning ritual. And the first thing is shaking it off, brother. I do what's called TRE, which is trauma release exercises. And it's a principle, it's an exercise based on these Indian children where these bombs are going off. It was at a time when there was devastation and war and all this stuff happening in India, and the adults didn't know how to get rid of the trauma in their bodies. And they started to observe the children. And what the children would do is they would shake after the bombs would go off. They would shake and then they would go play right after, right? They'd hear it, all this trauma, all this mayhem happening. Imagine that. And then 2 hours later, they're out playing with the other kids. The adults noticed this, right? And they were like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. Then the adults created this exercise called TRE, and it's moving fast into America, where you basically just lay on the floor and you put your legs together in a situation that kind of looks like this. There's videos on YouTube, you can look it up. And your legs just titrate naturally. They're shaking. So your subconscious is actually getting rid of trauma. Now, in doing this over the past few years, I've saw visions of myself stepping on nails, stuff that I thought I healed completely from, but it's still in this meat sack that I call the human body, right? I've seen trauma from the past, getting hit by my dad or my head held underneath the water as a 4-year-old child in a bathtub. So you get all these images and it just naturally leaves you. So first things first, I do that for about 5 minutes. And I also do it before any speech or anything that I want my vagal tone to lower and I want to feel grounded. I do it before podcasts so that I'm here in the moment.
So you lie on your back.
Yep.
Right? You lie on your back, legs up.
Yeah, legs just like this. Yep. So your hips are open like that. And your feet are on the floor. So it's just open leg, like a little pretzel.
Ah, okay. So
yeah.
Knees together, and then you just let them out. Let them open up the knees.
Yeah, you got it. And you can change the variance of the angle, and it shakes more like this. And you just go back and forth. And then it's self-regulated. It's a self-regulated healing technique that doesn't cost anything to do, but it'll help release a lot of that trauma in your body, which is the subconscious mind. And I'm going to talk about why I'm so fascinated in the subconscious mind in a little bit. We'll talk about that in the book, but that's the first part of the morning ritual. Second to that, I go over in my head all the things I'm grateful for. And first and foremost, one thing that I call into my prefrontal cortex is, wow, I made it another day.
Mm-hmm.
A million people died yesterday, right? A million people fell off the face of this planet yesterday. So I can raise my hand and I can say, I am a survivor. I am alive today. And fortunately enough, I asked myself another question. Nobody in my family, none of my friends, none of the people I know died, because they say what we know about 1,000 people in our lifetime. So if you take me, multiply it by 1,000, 1 million times that, there's 10 million people right now that are in sorrow because somebody that they loved and cared about, which relationships are the most important things as human beings, that is now gone. So hallelujah. That's two things massively that I have to be grateful for, leading into two other things, and that's my vision. I'm grateful for these two gifts that I have on my face that I can see this planet with, and the full spectrum of color. And then I just go on a rampage of appreciation for about 5 or 10 minutes. At the same time, I have music playing, I'm moving around, I'm jumping, I'm shaking, right? Acting like a crazy man. And then I go into what's called the super hydration station, and then I drink 32 ounces of water. With lemon, cayenne pepper, a little bit of sea salt. And then I also drink magnesium chloride. Magnesium chloride isn't sold in the US. It's only in Mexico that you can get this stuff. I get it on Amazon. And I drink a lot of this stuff. I don't never want to encourage anybody to do this, but it's a full magnesium flush, essentially. Your first 3 or 4 days doing this, if you're going to do it, it's bold, but be close to the bathroom, because you literally will shit your pants within seconds of taking this stuff. Literally like a minute, 2 minutes into it, it's like full cleanse. But what's interesting about magnesium is it's responsible for 400 biochemical transactions in the body. And number one, most addicts, people that are addicted to alcohol or cigarettes or whatever, they have a magnesium deficiency.
Yeah.
So you're addicted to the things that you're deficient in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to further the addiction because I think I'm going to control my biochemistry, and magnesium can solve a lot of that. That's just one of the things, right? But it's so important to have that, water, things from Mother Nature. So I do my super hydration, then I go to the gym, I lift, I work out. I come back home, I do an embodied meditation with my eyes open. I'll just breathe and pull my past, present, and future self into the present moment, which is the fourth dimension. Most people live in the 3D because they're in their heads, right? So I am now in the 4D, and at that particular point, that's the only place that you can create is the fourth dimension, because you're making a choice. And when you're making a choice, you are in the present moment. Most people live their whole lives not even in the present moment or remotely close. You look at them, and seers, you can see their field. You can look into their auric field or whatever, and you can see that they have 1,000 thoughts going around because you are in the fourth dimension. And as far as somebody who's addicted, they're living in the past and a lot, right? So that's my morning ritual, just part of it. I do a lot of other stuff like music. I got about 30 different musical instruments in my house that I love to play, and I collect sacred instruments, gongs, sound bowls. I'm the crazy guy that people come over and they're like, dude, your house feels insane. I don't know what's in this house, but I want to stick around for a little bit. They come in here and they'll just pass out on the couch because the frequency is just different than most places.
I want to go hang out in your house. You know, it's funny, as you were saying that, I was just making sure that that it was accurate. But as part of the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, there is a saying in there that says, we are rocketed into the fourth dimension. There's actually a phrase inside.
Get out of here.
But yes, it's rocketed to the fourth. I think it's the fourth dimension, or is it the fifth dimension? It could. I think it's the fourth dimension. Like when you said that, I go, yeah, rocketed into the fourth dimension. AA Big Book, right there, because I'd heard it over and over and over again. I go, that's the first time I've heard it from a normie. That's just kind of like, where does that? Okay, so where does that come from? Where your perspective is, like the rocketed, like the rocketed to the fourth dimension.
Yeah,
or the fourth dimension.
A lot of my information comes from being in the present moment, right? So ever since a young child, I've been a lucid dreamer. Mm-hmm. So I'll go into dream time and just create space. And now they're testing lucid dreams with MRI scans of brains, people that are sleeping. And it's 50,000 times more active than the awakened state. So most people are dreaming in their life. So for me, I'm dreaming awake. I'm literally collapsing my dream time with my current reality. So the fourth dimension is when miracles can take place. It's when I can think about somebody and then they call you right away.
Okay.
You just had that thought. Yep. Telepathy, time travel with the mind. And this is all ancient Indian texts. This is like the Gospel of Thomas. These are like all old ancient texts that actually tell us humans are superhumans. I think all of us are. It's not because I'm special or that I came to this planet with gifts that people don't have. It's just that I'm a human and I'm listening. So once we start to listen to that still small voice that's inside of every single human, we start to get access to not only the fourth dimension, but dozens of other dimensions beyond that. Dude. And that's where magic, and the earth is going through a shift right now too, which is why the polarity of everything that's happening and the government and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, we don't need to go there, but I will say this. Now, for those of you listening who have heard rocket into the fourth dimension, I don't know how many times, you know where Bill Wilson got it from now, okay? He was connected, all right, to ancient Indian tribal techniques. So
or Toltec wisdom is another one, right? Which is another ancient shamanism.
Yep.
So it's a powerful place to be. And so but the problem is Don Juan talks about this in a lot of Carlos Castaneda's work back in the day. And I'm fortunate enough, and I feel grateful to be connected to Don Juan's only apprentice, Javier, who I've been working with for 10 years. And he's this Mexican shaman that just, like, he is source in the flesh, like this guy's source. And the problem is we are never silent. We're never quiet enough to hear ourselves, let alone hear other people. And we're projection machines. So we're projecting our image of what we think this other person is onto them before we really know who they are.
Dude, this is like,
so
this is very heavy, very deep stuff. Very, like,
well, you don't want to have, dude, the reason I'm on here is because you refuse to have surface level conversations. You're a deep guy as it is.
Yes.
And sharing this message with the world, this is exactly what whoever is listening to this, even if it's only one person, they called this into their experience and they need to hear this right now. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have a few thousand listening, which is fantastic. But no, this is great because there's a lot of what happens in our recovery that's unexplainable. You know, when we talk about expect a miracle, okay, well, we talk about just allowing things to manifest naturally in our lives. Like, don't worry about trying to figure this out. Okay, just go, just follow the process. Just allow yourself to become part of the journey. Don't worry about the results. And so a lot of this is where that comes from is like, if you start with a very dynamic morning routine like you have, and there's a lot of different types of routines, different types of meditations, different type of morning routines, exercises included in there, whatever the case may be, connecting with source right before you get your day started is a way of starting your day with intention. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. And we do that because we all have the option. We have the option to feed the bad wolf or we can feed the good wolf.
Yep. Absolutely.
And the good wolf is, once you get on the other side of it, the ego that's been driving you to drink, that's been driving you to be addicted to anything, is in the front seat. It's all 3D ego. So once the ego knows that the fourth dimensional self, the higher self, the self that's connected to the infinite, the God realized self that Saint Germain talks about, or Lord Sananda, who's Jesus Christ, was here to show us. Once you're connected to that, the ego's like, hands up, I'm good. I'm going to sit in the back seat. You do you, boo-boo. Like, just take care of us. Like, I trust. And then the whole magic show starts, right? Like, next level. Now you're a human torch. You are literally walking around, speaking to people, and they're listening with no classrooms. You're inspiring every single person you come in contact with by who you're being, nothing you're even saying. You're actually working on people. You enter into a room and your physical, energetic body is working on people as you walk in there. So that's why these gurus, right, that you see in India that have such a high frequency will walk into a room of 1,000 people and people just start crying because they're tapped into the fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional self, and it's all love. It's all light. But the person that's struggling with addiction has that too. They're just on the other side of it. They're doing the opposite of what the guru's doing somewhere else that's healing all these people. They're just so concerned about themselves. And when you realize, and if you ever watch Doctor Strange, which is a badass movie, by the way.
Yes.
I'm a total geek for superhero movies. Yeah, there you go. When she floats out into her astral form and she's dying, she said, it was never about you. Right? And that's the big thing that I believe, and I haven't read it, but the 12-step process probably goes into that, is you're making it all about yourself. Self-serving,
yes,
right?
Correct.
And it's sad
fear.
because
Self-centered fear.
Yeah, self-centered fear, and you're making it about you. And when you flip it, when you wake up in the morning and it's about everybody else, when you're in doubt and you start to focus out, that's when your whole entire reality starts to shift.
So it's a lot about, for you, there's a practice that you do, there's gratitude that you focus on, and then it's the idea of being of service?
Yeah, consistent service, random acts of kindness all day long, every day.
Okay.
It's recognizing that I would say the vast majority of the people that are actually addicted are in a state of being the actor. or actress. And here for all the visual people that are listening to this, I want you to imagine that as the actor, you're here in the reality that you're in, and that's it. You look around, you see the 3D reality, you hear the thoughts, but you don't know who's the thoughts. You don't know who's the thinker yet, right? And you're just acting out a role. Somebody cuts you off, you get pissed off. Wife doesn't do something for you, now you escalated, you're upset. You got a bill to pay, now you got scarcity conversation happening in your head. These are all acting modes, and it's normal, right? The vast majority of the population are actors. We're just acting this role in this grand simulation that we call life. It's like the Matrix. The actors are in the Matrix. Once you start to realize that you are not the actor, you move up to producer. So the producer is in control of the actor. It's giving the actor ideas, thoughts, things that it can do to shift its ways of being, but it's not fully emerged just yet. It's a much higher version of the actor of yourself, but it's not totally in the game. And then you have the director. And the director is where the magic starts to happen. Because then the director seat, you realize it's not about you, like she says, the guru and Dr. Strange. And when it's not about you, that's when you have access to the real you that I talk about in the book, the big you, the big universe, the infinity within you. Heaven is within you, right? Heaven realms are within you. The actor likes to create hell realms that are all around us, everywhere we look. Anything that's not, everything's external focused. I need this to put this inside of me versus going inward first. And that's the director seat. What do you need?
Okay. So if we're talking about the director, okay, is it the idea of almost being dissociated from yourself? Kind of like almost watching the meat sack and directing?
Yeah, you're just a witness.
Okay, so you're just
exactly
positioning, kind of like the pup. You become the puppet master of yourself.
Yeah, this flesh sack that you're looking at right now is just a puppet.
Okay, all right.
What's happening behind the scenes? That's incredible, right?
Yeah,
you could be in 18,000 locations at once, and right now you're just seeing my puppet sack. But there's a lot of background energy happening, right? We can't see it because of the 3D that we're stuck in. But if you could see for a moment with your pineal and the third eye, right? Then
if you could
be heaven. Yeah. Well, you can.
I'm sure there's that, again, that stages of evolution, right? And as far as spiritual evolution and getting to that, and this is what you focus on daily.
Every day.
Every single day.
Every day.
Okay. So then and that, which leads me right to my next question, because it's always a question I ask. Part of recovery for us, the ones that have recovered, that are living this life beyond our wildest dreams, all have, I'm not going to say all, the majority of us, so we don't go into absolutes, the majority of us have a relationship with a higher power, whatever that higher power is called in your life, however you want to address it. But the idea of a power greater than ourselves. So there is that practice, or there's that conscious contact with that higher power. What does that conscious contact or that higher power look like for you, Drew?
There's no disconnection for me. It's everywhere. It's omnipresence. Everywhere I look, I see life. I see God, if that's what we're calling it, right? But even God is a label. And I think what I like to do is not have any label at all for anything or beliefs at all. Okay. Like I have no beliefs, but I also have no disbeliefs. And I'm curious. I'm vastly curious about everybody else's ideas and what they're up against. Like that ignites me. So if I could sum it up in one thing, and I talk about it in the book, it's the light, right? But before there was the light, there was the sound in the Bible that was written in Jesus's language. There was the sound, and it's good, right? And it was good. Like I literally see good everywhere. And if there's something that I witness in the day, then I'm consistently reframing it and making it positive. And I think that's something every human can do. It's the art of reframing, right? It's how would the highest version of myself, how would the director, how would the God realized person that's in all of us see this situation? And in the Bible, it's like, see, what's the verse? It's like, see the righteousness with righteous thinking. So what is righteous thinking? Righteous thinking is just being connected to source and seeing through the eyes of God.
Mm-hmm.
So with conviction, like every single, think about all the blessings you would just lay on people if you saw every single human in their highest self. You would walk up, you'd be in the mall, you'd be like, you are so beautiful. I want you to know that I see you. And you have so much grace. You have so much power. You have so much wonder and joy in your smile. And I just absolutely am compelled to tell you this right now. You would just floor people.
You know what is so funny is about this is I had a situation. I had to run some errands this morning, and I was pulling into my complex, and there was this. I was in my wife's car. She's got a smaller Mazda, and this big ass SUV is right behind me, right? And I had stopped waiting for the gate to open in our development, and like I do with everything else, while I'm waiting, I'm looking at my phone, right? And so while I'm looking at my phone, the gate opens and the guy's behind me. He's like honking. And I'm like, yeah, relax. What's the rush, right? And so anyway, I'm like, whatever. And I pull in, and I'm about to turn into my driveway, but I like to open up a little bit. Well, this guy is in some kind of rush because he almost hits me. I guess he thought I was going to move to the right, and he tried to pass me, and then I start to cut across.
Yeah.
And then I just remember myself pulling in and rolling down the window so I could look back and give him one of my looks, right? Yeah. And so for the next half an hour, I'm like, dude, I've got this interview with Drew, and I'm fucking pissed. You're like, I'm like, I've got this, I've got this interview with Drew, and I'm just, my blood's boiling. I actually went outside and went around the corner. I was like, maybe I should just talk to this guy. You know what I mean? And like, let's figure out what the problem is, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think anything happens I don't think anything happens by coincidence. And I can't remember the last time I was pissed off about something trivial like this. I can't remember. And I just remember going, why can't I shake this off? Right? And so it's like, as you were talking, I was like, maybe this was just an example of what Drew's talking about here. And if I'm looking at everybody as one, as a beautiful spiritual creature that we all are, and instead of me like being like, what would you call that? Infinitesimal, or being like, I don't even know what you would call that. But I don't know. Is this what you're referring to?
3D.
When it talks about okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you're just stuck in the 3D.
Stuck in the 3D. And you're stuck in the matrix.
Yeah, you're the puppet. You're in the matrix.
Aha. You're
lost in your own thought. But pull yourself out. Imagine yourself as a being that's like even a mile, 2 miles, 10 miles, 1,000 miles in infinity, connected to source, looking back at you in that moment. And when you look back at you, you can have so much compassion for the man that's enraged and angry. And you can also have much compassion for the guy that did that to you. And what you'll see is there's no disconnection from you or the other man. That it's just one. That maybe he did that to teach you a lesson. Who knows what's in the cards for you in that? But it's ultimately you. So any single person that wrongs you, it's just another projection or a mirrored image of yourself. And I think one of the greatest laws in the Kybalion, which is basic ancient Hermetic teachings, it's like pre-Bible, pre-anything else. It's the Universal Law of Oneness, like you said. And you nailed it when you said, if I could just see through the eyes of one. I had the same thing happen to me, right? I pulled in the grocery store. This guy almost took me out. He was like inches away from my car. And I had the same thing happen where I'm like, okay, who the fuck?
Yeah.
Like my human reaction, normal. Okay. I'm a normal dude. I'm not a guru. I'm a guide on the side. I'm on this journey with you. Right? So he almost takes me out. And then I get out of my car and I look at him and I do one of these. Bring it in, my brother. I don't know whose fault it was, but let's hug it out. Boom. Planted a hug on this guy. And he's like, I didn't know what was going on. He's like, I was so distracted by your car. First of all, he's like, I've never seen a car like this. And then I got out and I just gave him a hug, and he's like, thank you for that. Like, he needed a hug. So you never know. Dude. That guy may need you in that moment to shift him. And I got a parking ticket yesterday. Same thing. I could have been upset about it, but instead I switched it right away. And I said, you know what? This cop needs some freaking light sent right infused into his body. I'm going to open him up so much. I got out there for the parking ticket, and I bet you that cop has never left leaving somebody a ticket more pumped up or feeling like a complete jackass. Because I just like totally just poured so much light into this dude. But I didn't care. I'm like, you know what? He's in my position. He's in my field. Like, I'm going to make this epic as much as possible.
Dude, so, that's magnificent. The funny thing is, I just did that. And the cool thing is that a lot of times, the more information, sometimes information overload, some people just can't get it, right? But, you know, when it comes to these kinds of conversations, especially when it comes to dissociating myself from the event, from myself, from my body, right? Moving, right? Like as far, go into the clouds, go into the universe, and then try and look down into the into the event, into the actual event, right? And then pouring compassion into me first. I thought you were going to say, get up high above it and pour compassion into the guy first. And I realized I needed the compassion. Yeah. So that I could, I put the air mask, oxygen mask on first. I pour it into me. I'm able to pour it into him. And I could just feel my chest. I could feel my chest rise. Right. And I was like, it was gone. Not only was it gone, like I felt so good about the exercise. And also, if I'm thinking about this, just from the ego perspective, sometimes I can get out of shit. Where do I want to be? Do I want to be the actor, the producer, or the director? I mean, like, seriously, what role do I want to play? And in that particular situation, when the anger got the best of me, I'm the actor. I'm the puppet. I'm getting manhandled.
And that's okay. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because you came here to experience it all.
Yeah.
Right? And when you sabotage and you drink or you are addicted to anything, have kindness for yourself. Stop beating yourself up.
Yeah.
Just be massively more compassionate. The world needs more compassion. It doesn't need people saying, do this, do that, beating down your throat. Like, there's enough of those people out there. But just have more compassion for yourself. Be kind. Acknowledge who you are, how far you've come. Man, and the difference that you're making in everybody else's life. Right?
That's the tough part too. That's such a strong statement, brother. That's such a strong statement, because so many of us early in recovery can't fathom being able to help others, cannot fathom being of service just by being, just by sharing, just by being present.
Just focus out.
Here's what I want to get to then, as quickly as possible, right? Is that, was there a time, because you mentioned it about your parents being drugs and alcohol being the problem.
Yeah.
Is there a time for you where you started dabbling in it, trying it out, and it became an issue for you?
Alcohol for sure, 1,000%. In college, we got to plug it in. In college, I would do it every weekend, of course, copious amounts of alcohol. But I think for the most part, I was so blessed to see it just wreak havoc on my parents at such a young age, to where I knew that it wasn't the right path. But I also did. I mean, of course. And there's been other addictions that I've had. I think when people just say they're addicted to drugs and alcohol, I mean, everybody's addicted to something. I mean, if you want to talk about addiction.
Yeah, for sure.
So everybody's addicted to something. It could be something like...
Go ahead. Well, what are those sums other than alcohol? Obviously you have trauma based on childhood experience with alcohol.
Yes.
I don't need this. But all of a sudden I move into something else that has nothing to do what were some of those addictions?
Of course. So everybody has a worthiness conversation in their head. Most of the people that I've encountered, especially in the United States, this Western civilization that we're in, the lack of celebration is just running rampant, where it's like you get one success and then it's what's next. You have one car and then you have two cars and then you have three cars. Then your house becomes a warehouse, right? You're collecting so much stuff because of this issue that you have that's saying that I'm not worthy. So that was a big one for me because I wasn't good enough to be loved as a kid. I was abused. I stored that in my memory processing bank as, okay, well then I'm going to make as much money as humanly possible to show everybody how worthy I really am. So I related worthiness to bank accounts, artificial numbers in an account that tell me how much meaning I should have in my life or how much I'm worth. So it led to a lot of disharmony because my solution was, you know what, I'll just work harder. So I worked so hard for so many years with Fit Like TV. When I started 7.5 years ago, I was working 14 to 16 hours a day. Luckily, I was focusing out the whole entire time, and we built a community of around 6 million people. But there was a side of my ego that was like, I'm just going to continue to build this. I'm going to focus on this. Didn't have a lot of friendships at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a form of filling that worthiness bucket.
Yes. There's those. Go ahead.
Yeah, and looking good. Looking good is another vice that I've had. Mm-hmm. I want to look good. So what do you become? You become a yes person. You say yes to absolutely everything that you come in contact with because you don't want to let anybody down. But in doing that, you're the biggest taker in the room.
Yes.
So
Agenda.
The more you want something from them, right? So that was another one of my addictions and one of my vices that I had. I was addicted to sex, big time. Like getting validation through sex. That was the thing. And I think a lot of men fall into this. It's more of a man thing because the only thing we need from a woman to charge us spiritually is to move up one chakra from the root chakra into the sacral, which is the sex chakra. But the woman has to come all the way down to the sacral chakra, which is crown, right? Third eye, throat, solar heart, solar plexus, and then sacral. So the woman has to do this long journey to actually be integrated with a man during sexual intercourse. A man just has to come up.
Yes.
But an integrated man has to go all the way up to Father Sky, which is all around us, and then come back down to Mother Earth, which is right below the sacral chakra. So a fully integrated woman is actually connected more to Mother Earth, and a man's connected more to Father Sky, which is when you go through the 12-step process, it sounds like they're connecting you as men to a lot of the patriarch language that's associated with connecting to infinite realms, which is Father Sky, which is exciting. But I think what people need is a mixture of both.
Well, a lot of whatever emotional wounds you have from childhood, you're going to do success and money, people pleasing, getting in shape, the body image, the identity as the shielding mechanisms for all this. And then you're just going to soothe yourself with work, alcohol, and sex, right? So it's just like I'm shielding myself, soothing myself, shielding myself because I just don't know who I am. And I don't even know how to show up in the world. And detaching ourselves from all that is the work, So ideally, just to keep things rolling, because I have a few questions that I want to dive into before we digress too much. I want to do our 5 closing questions. But before we do, I want our listeners to be able to reach out to you. So, tell us the book, where they can find it, websites, everything.
Yeah. And I love what you said too. It's like, you barely know who you are. And that's what this is about. This is about discovering who you are, the book, You Be You. It's about removing the limitations, crushing your limitations, detoxing your life, and then really owning who you are. Because when you own who you are, you're showing up powerfully. You're rocketing, like the 12 steps say, into the 4th dimension, totally present, totally aware, totally giving in every single moment of the day. And that's You Be You. You can go to ubeyoubook.com. I have a 4-part video series that you get valued at $100, a meditation course, which is $47, self-love checklist, And then I also have 2 tickets to a live event. The last live event I did, I charged $1,000 a seat. The only thing you need to do is buy 2 books and you get tickets to a live event that I'm putting on October 19th here in San Diego for 2 hours. And that's it. That's the book, ububook.com. You can get it there. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's just Drew Canole, @DrewCanole, and Fit Life TV, @Fit Life TV on the other mediums as well. And then, like you said, check out Organifi for our superfood products that can actually change your frequency internally so that that projection of reality starts to shift as well.
How did the red juice do?
Red juice is crushing it.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's doing really well.
Okay.
It tastes like, I love the taste of it. Fruit punch.
Okay.
I mix it in a little mineral water or water. I have it before the gym, and my workouts are better than ever. It's got beet, rhodiola, cordyceps. Cordyceps are the most clinically tried mushroom on the planet for energy.
Okay.
So,
because we tried that, I tried that one, and we weren't big on the flavor of the red. The green juice we love, the one with the ashwagandha and the coconut infusion.
Do you like beets?
That could be. I like beets. My wife's not big on the beets.
So maybe that's why, because there is beets in it. It doesn't really taste, to me, it doesn't taste like beets at all. We use Lohan to sweeten it, which is
it's very very sweet. It's
sweet. It's sweet.
Yeah, that might have been it too. But anyway,
if it's too sweet, one thing I tell people is just use more water.
Okay. All right. So anyway, love it.
Thank
Green
you.
juice, the bomb. All right. So we're gonna start closing up. So Drew, number 1, what was holding you back from getting started initially in your journey of self-discovery?
Me. I think we are the ones that are holding ourselves back, right? So I wasn't asking the right questions, and I was too focused on me. I was focused on Drew. I was focused on the 3D body of Drew, which is still very stiff and rigid. I mean, look at me. I'm built like a bodybuilder, right? But that's from
Drew. That's not a fucking accident, bro.
No, it started as a conversation in my head, like, hey, I was beat up as a little boy. So now I want to pack as much muscle on this meat as possible to protect myself. So it isn't any wonder why I spent 2 to 3 hours in the gym every day for years, right? And now I love it. I'm addicted to it. I love moving my body. I love being the strongest person in the room. But to what extent, right? There's so much more juiciness in meditation, in Tai Chi, even like ancient energy moves and poses, like ancient yoga, like all that stuff. I mean, if I would have been developing half of my time into that when I was doing all the work in the gym, I would be walking through walls right now.
So how often do you work out then, gym-wise, per week?
I work out every day for about an hour and a half.
So you're still lifting every day for an hour and a half?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't change it.
Okay.
But you got to ask the motive. You know, in the beginning, I started because I wanted
to look good,
to protect myself, and to
protect yourself and look good.
3D. Yep, the 3D is a black hole for sure. But now it's more of, my definition of it now is expressing dominion over the physical body.
Okay.
And when I age, I want to be 120, 130 with bone density of a 20-year-old, right? Or my cells. I just did a telomere test, and I did a cell degradation test that tells you how old your biological cells are, right? And I'm like at 35. So I'm 37 physically, but biologically I'm 35, which is actually really good because they say that trauma adds another 10 years on your cells at a young age. So I figured
you've done all that clearing.
Yeah, I've done tons of clearing. Like I do recovery every day for an hour and a half too.
Okay.
So when you said, what's your recovery plan? I'm like, well, my recovery plan is infrared sauna for 45 minutes to an hour every day. I have these guns that I put on my legs to get rid of lactic acid buildup. I swim in an ice plunge bath. I'm like thinking recovery like somebody who takes recovery serious in their life, right?
Bring it, yeah.
So, grounding in the earth, jumping in the ocean every day is so good for us. Connecting to nature, just putting your feet in the sand changes things.
Yes.
I'm gonna do that right
after
this
grass.
podcast. Yeah.
Walking on grass, super
Walking
important.
in grass. So that's the recovery aspect.
Yep.
But me, I was the one that got in my way. Period.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, number 2. At what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in your life when you developed the hope that you could make a real difference in your life and in the life of others?
Oh, God. I think I had this internal knowing at a very young age. Like when I was 6, I prayed to forgive my dad. I forgave him. So forgiveness.
6?
Yeah, 6 years old.
Wow.
And it was a prayer like, you know what? I pray for grandma and grandpa and the goldfish and the hamster and the gerbil and the birds that are eating outside. And I also pray to forgive my father for everything that he did to me when I was little. And my mom said every hair in her body stood up because she knew that I released it. My sister never released it. She's still working on releasing it fully. And she's doing a much better job with it. But I think forgiveness is key in all of our journeys. As you know, I think forgiveness is probably part of the 12-step process too.
It's more for you than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Now, do you think the fact that you were 6 years old made it easier for you to release? Because I mean, as it's a child, right? As we get older, we hold on to shit more. Right?
Oh, of course.
You think it was that had to do with it?
Yeah, an emotion lasts 15 seconds neurochemically, but we store it in our bodies, which are the subconscious meat sacks, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's all that, those memories and traumas in the body. So at that young age, I released it. And when I was 27, I actually sent my dad a letter because I wanted to talk to him. So I wrote him this handwritten letter and I sent it to the prison that he was at because he got like 3 life sentences for drugs and alcohol and child abuse, torture. Right.
Dude.
So I sent him this letter and he sent the most beautiful letter back to me.
Wow.
He said, "Thank you so much. I've been praying for you every day." And it was like handwritten. I think he painted the front of it in prison or something like that. It was beautiful. Dude. I have yet to go. He just got out last year. I have yet to go meet him, but I want to go meet him in person.
Dude, we could have gone Joe Rogan. We could have got Joe Rogan on this podcast. All right. I needed you for like 3 hours, dude. An hour is not enough. It's a wild story, dude.
We'll do it again. I'll come back again.
All right,
40-minute intervals. We'll see how it works. If it's the number 1 on your show, we'll come back again.
Okay. All right. I'll send you the downloads. All right. Okay. So then number 3. All right. You can include your book too. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to our listeners?
Yeah. I'm a voracious reader, dude. I have over 1,000 books in my office right here.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I read like a book every other day. But I would say for anybody this is so simple, and this book changed my life way back. It's so basic, outside of UBU, of course, because I gotta promote my own book.
Of course.
But Stuart Wilde wrote a book called "Life Was Never Meant to Be a Struggle."
I like
and that. This book will change your life. It's another book. Second to that would probably be, or even just as powerful, would be Florence Shin's book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, which was written in the early 1920s. And then any book by Joel Goldstein, super powerful.
Beautiful.
All these old metaphysical works. Neil Goddard writes some good classic books. This is like all this stuff Earl Nightingale was reading before he started the personal development movement. This is all the stuff that's based a lot on those ancient texts and then put in a way that we can understand today. So
magnificent suggestions. None of these have been suggested. So we've got brand new literature, all going to be listed on the show notes, folks. Make sure to check all these out. All right, number 4. What is the best suggestion you have ever received?
It was probably when Frank, one of my mentors, told me, he's like, if you're going to do something for work in life, because we're working 1/3 of our lives, right? He said, make sure you're doing something to impact other people. And then that's when I started Fit Life TV. So best suggestion that I've ever received. And I talk about it in the book too, about how that played out.
Impact people's lives.
Yeah.
Love it. And real quick, before I ask the final question, I'm thinking, how do you want me to title this interview? It's either going to be UBU with Drew Canole, or it's going to be the meat sack with Drew Canole. You said the meat sack like 30 times. What do you want?
Oh, no.
It's your choice.
The Puppet Master of Meat Sack.
The Puppet Master.
Yeah, no. Don't call it that. I'm just messing around. I like how excited you got that. Gosh, what do we call this?
Up to you. I was just going to be UBU with Drew Canole, but if you want, the meat sack just kept coming up. I'm like, how cool is the meat sack with Drew Canole? But it might be a little too dark.
No, I like the meat sack. You can call it the meat sack if you like it.
I love it. It's come up, and I even wrote it down. I go, dude, I should call it this, but I better ask him first. All right,
call it the meat sack.
I love it. It's going to get a lot of attention. All right, so number 5, finally, if you could give our listeners only one suggestion, what would that be?
Yeah, I said it. I mean, it's been littered throughout this podcast, but it's compassion for yourself. Be kind to you.
Dude.
So every day, in every moment, how can I be more kind to myself? More self-love, more self-forgiving, and just, own your awesome. And that's what it says. Own your awesome. Come on.
Dude. Wow. Drew, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yes. Thank you for having me, my brother. I appreciate you, and I love what you're doing in the world.
Thank you, brother. You too, man. Seriously. Keep it up. All right, folks. We have now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida. Can you give us a pura vida, Drew?
Pura vida.
Dude, that's a wrap.